Let's just do it. Good. All right. Good. Now, housekeeping announcements too. This is simply meant to be a night of hope, a night of us coming together during these dark days, these challenging times, for us to focus on inspiration, impact, and empowerment, so that we could be different at the end of it all. I mean, because these are not days to bring back once we what had. These are days to become something better. And so this is not going to be a workshop where we're going to do any self-promoting whatsoever. All of the speakers, like the speakers that we had on April 3rd and the speakers that we had on April 20th and the speakers that we have tonight and the speakers that we're going to have every 2 weeks that we do this, are simply here selflessly volunteering to tell their story and to also give you some takeaways. Now, I know I had a lot of questions that were going on about the handout. You know, the handout, we most of the time, we on the 20th, we did publish it ahead of time, but most of the time we wanted to publish that handout that very next day or the day after, so that you can have time to just kind of immerse yourself in what's being said and take notes in any way that you can. We noticed that if we put handouts out ahead of time, what happens is that people are looking down so much at the handout, they're not paying attention to the speaker. And we really want to go on this journey of joy together so that we can focus on, you know, resilience and just life dispensing. All right. Now, that kind of concludes the housekeeping announcements. I'm going to go ahead and get into the introduction because we want to target 90 minutes. And just to go ahead and say one last keynote is, this is a CEC, a continuing education credit approved program through the American Council on Exercise. If you're participating right now, we'll talk at the end of the program so that you will know how to request your certificate of completion to get your 2 hours worth of CECs. Even though we're targeting 90 minutes, we know there's going to be Q&A at the end. Now, and many of my people that are here representing Canada, because I know there's a lot of you, we are pretty soon, we think that by the end of next week, which means that I can hold your certificates till then, but by the end of next week, we expect that it'll also be CanFit Pro certified, and we can go from there. Sound good? Give me thumbs up if you are really excited to have a free webinar and get CECs, continuing education credits, as a result of just attending this free webinar about inspiration and hope. Go ahead and put yes or some sort of affirmation in the chat bar right now. Good. Awesome. I see them coming in. Awesome. Great. Stephen Furtick is a superb speaker that I follow. And recently he talked about the rumble that we're all hearing and some are saying. He said that many people are saying that they are waiting for everything to get back to normal. Get back to normal. I mean, I get it. I miss normal just as much as anyone else, and I especially miss normal in my own household. I mean, I understand that we're in the middle of a COVID-19 crisis. The pandemic problem has pushed us into a bit of panic for some and paranoia for others. Just when I thought things were getting into a new growth groove, several storms and 2 tornadoes hit Nashville, Tennessee on Sunday, the 3rd of May, just the other day, eliminating the power for over 100,000 people, my family included. I am at someone's house right now. I'm at a friend's house, making certain that we can go live on time because there's no power in my house, and there's been no power for a couple of days. Running the refrigerator off of a Ryobi generator and putting out 100-watt solar panels out on the porch deck to power our small devices like our, you know, PDAs and things like that. And this is just what became something that we had to do because I have a 2-year-old daughter, I have a 10-year-old son, and a loving wife, and I've been in the middle of a survival mode since the quarantine took control of our freedom and our perception of what we thought was our normal way of life. Now, while planning virtual presentations for several projects, I've been in another round of survival, just placing all of these things into action. Hear me when I say, Hear me when I say normal has left the building. All right. If everyone can agree that normal has left the building, go ahead and also put some sort of words of affirmation in the chat bar now. If anyone else feels the same way I can do, please just go ahead and respond. You see, you never know how much you need normal until you're forced to live without it. You may have noticed that the same people that are complaining about getting back to normal are the exact people that were quite vocal about wanting to change their lives prior to the virus crisis. So how do we do it? How do we turn frustration into fascination? How do we go from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset when the world around us is changing constantly? Well, I know that my message can be only powerful if I brought in the help from a couple of friends. And a couple became several. And this program, Project Hope, Hope stands for Help Other People Endure, has grown exponentially. And we never realized that it would blow up like it has. We've got now going every 2 weeks in North America. We got people tuning in right now from Lebanon and Saudi Arabia and the Philippines. And we're really happy that we're all coming for the same reason. So to make it easier for people in other time zones, on May 15th, we're going to do the very first featuring Singaporean speakers and one of our own, Stephen Furtick, Speedball Steve. We're going to be launching Project Hope Singapore, and we're also organizing Project Hope Philippines and Project Hope Lebanon. But for now, let's talk about our first speaker, Christine Conti, AKA Wonder Woman, is a mom of two, and she's crazy enough to think that she can change the world. She's a former All-American athlete, investment banker, and secondary teacher. She owns and co-hosts two Fit Crazies and a microphone podcast, and she's an international fitness educator and CEO of Conti Fitness and Wellness and creator of Let's Face It Together. I could go on about all the things that she's been through in her life, but I don't want to steal her thunder. What I know about Christine and reason why I'm feeling so blessed that she decided to jump on this journey and to be a part of this is that I remember being at an SCW fitness conference and speaking for Sarah Cooperman and her organization, and speaking on behalf of Water Rower, the rowing machine. I'm the director of programming for Water Rower. And I remembered, in the break room where all the presenters go, I remember, there's this Christine Conti. I want to get to know her. And she just sat down right next to me. And what I thought would just be a 5-minute conversation wound up to be at least an hour. And time went by just like that. It was just, you ever talk to somebody and meet somebody and you felt like you had known that person for years. And that's just the type of person that she is. So I'm going to go ahead and say, Christine, where are you at? I got to find you, and then I got to pin you. I see you over there. Good. Unmute yourself, and let you steal the show. Do it.
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Get a little yes, thumbs up. Perfect. All right. I have to say I am blessed, Sergeant Ken, to be a part of this journey. And I just want to say thank you for being a trailblazer, you and your wife, and for spearheading this amazing project. I'm truly grateful. And I'm truly grateful to be a part of such a group of rock star mavericks on a similar mission to provide hope for the world. And yes, I am crazy enough to think that I am going to change the world in some way. Absolutely. So as a former investment banker and a former English teacher, I have to say that if y'all think that you are getting out of here without a story, you are mistaken. So I have a story to share with you all this evening. And then I'm going to ask you a couple questions. So I hope you're paying attention. There might be a quiz. And it goes a little something like this. Picture it. You are now 8 years old. You are in your childhood home. It is Christmas or Hanukkah or Festivus for the rest of us. And you've been trying to be on your best behavior, and I'm hoping your goodness has not gone unnoticed throughout the year. And what should appear? A bounty of shiny presents, big and small, beautiful bows, gigantic bows. You reach down, you look at the tag, it's your name. You reach down for another, your name again. Another, your name. I know. So you open the first gift and it's exactly what you wanted. Exactly what you wanted. You're happy, excited, elated, grateful, all the good feelings. You're feeling good. You pick up the second, you open that, also what you wanted. The third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth. You are on top of the world right now opening these gifts. Throw in the paper. Now, you get to the seventh package. You're excited, you're hopeful, everything's going great. Now, as a former English teacher, you know 7 is going to be symbolic in some way. Just throw that out there. You open the 7th package. It is exactly what you didn't want. You're filled with disappointment, anger, sadness, all the bad things. All the bad things. But what do? You've got options, right? Option 1, you wallow. You wallow in the negative. Option 2, you could return it. Pragmatic. But there's no, you don't know who sent it. And there's also no receipt. So you can't just run through Target, throw it at the cashier. Poof, it's not going to happen. Option 3, you take the gift and you think about ways you could possibly use it, even though you didn't want it and you're kind of a little upset about it. All right, so where am I going with this? I too have opened a lot of presents in my life, a lot of gifts. Those that have been exactly what I've wanted because I worked hard, I behaved, I did what was right, I followed the rules. I was, like as Sergeant Ken said, All-American Bible player. I was a banker, a teacher, a mother, a wife, a fitness pro, a friend, an Iron Man, you name it, all the good things, the good stuff. And then there were the presents that I didn't ask for. The glorious gifts that consisted of things like all of us have been through: abuse, addiction, betrayal, depression, grief, hurt, loss, pain, disease, all the bad stuff, all the bad stuff. While I never asked for any of these gifts, they were mine. Couldn't get rid of them. They followed me everywhere. I own them. Lucky me. But with these gifts, I too had choices. Either do something or do nothing. Always choose something. And this is actually a quote from my idol, Wonder Woman. It is. And yes, I have a Wonder Woman tattoo symbol on the back of my neck, which is a totally different story for another day. However, I need to go back in time. It is the early 1980s. Grandma Jean flashes her great big smile and urges me over where she's sitting on her seemingly majestic throne. I lean in and give her a big hug. She was wearing the usual, a polyester pantsuit, a little silk blouse. She had a brooch that she always wore that was a family heirloom. She's in full makeup, nails painted, and she's got those big clip-on earrings that I used to play with when she wasn't watching. And she's got, her hair is all curled because she used to sleep in curlers. That was Grandma Jean. Now, Grandma Jean is actually the most positive person I have ever met in my life. to this day. And I know a lot of people. So you see, Grandma Jean was actually given a gift that would forever alter her life. Her diagnosis of severe autoimmune diseases, particularly arthritis, left her in a quadriplegic state. So Grandma Jean was actually confined to a wheelchair, AKA her throne, that's what I called it, for the last 20 years of her life, completely dependent on nurses and family to dress, to eat, to use the bathroom. Yet she was the happiest person I ever knew. Fast forward. It's 2009. I'm sitting on a cold white, or sitting in a cold white room on that crinkly white paper on the patient's table at the rheumatologist's office. Tears streaming down my cheeks, and I don't want to believe it because the results were back. I've been given the same gift that my grandmother opened all those years ago. And I'm stunned. I feel like I can't breathe. I look down at my hands, my feet, my knees, and all I wonder is, when are they going to stop working? All I can picture is that wheelchair, a paralyzed and powerless body. Thoughts of suicide, they clouded my head because I would rather die than live like that. I'm an athlete, a coach, a mom. I don't want this gift and all the bad things that come with it. You see, what I didn't realize that day was how this gift would allow me to be reborn. I began deeply reflecting about Grandma Jean, about her resilience and zest for life and gratitude just for being alive was enough to keep her going. Her positive attitude, always. And about her ability to use her gift to show people that anything is possible. So I actually didn't start living that I see now until I got sick. And it took months of darkness, of depression, of questioning, who am I, why, to see the light. And when my eyes opened, I had a new perspective. I embraced the hurt, the pain, the sorrow. I got it. Whatever that means, I embraced the gift and the new role that I was being called to fulfill for some reason. I became that Hester Prynne that I had taught as an English professor for 15 years in the Scarlet Letter, where she went through this darkness and she came out and was able to see that in others and gravitated towards them. Sergeant Ken, you get it. And so do I. And that is why, like you said before, we could talk, because you have it. And so do a lot of speakers, so do the people listening to this, whether they know it or not. It's that it, I call it a shine, that you may or may not know. We all have it, but we may not be open to it. And once you are open to it, your life will change forever. So I couldn't explain it, but it causes you to be able to see things, gratitude, lose your fear, and most importantly, love, whatever that may mean to you. So what I want you to do right now is rewind one last time, back to your childhood. So back to the moment when you opened that one present, that first present, that was exactly what you didn't want. So now you don't know what to do. You look down, you know what you see? There were more presents. You weren't done. So you pick another one up. It's not as shiny as before. It might be paper's a little rattled. The bow's a little ripped. It almost looks like a regift from like years and years. You know what I'm talking about? So this gift is not looking that great, but you know what? You're going to open it. You're not feeling really excited, but something in your heart is telling you, go ahead, open it. Trust your instincts. Trust me. Slowly, reluctantly, you open that present. It's hope. You've been given the gift of hope. It will forever change your life. So with that said, what I'd like you all to do just right now is take a moment, and I'm not going to single anybody out, but if you would like, go ahead in the comments right now. I want you to comment on a gift that you received in life that was absolutely what you wanted. Would you think I was going to say the other one? No, I want to hear a gift that you were like, this is perfect. That's what I want to see right now. So gift. Go. Let's see.
Fiona put Atari. That's awesome.
Oh, asteroids are the best.
Oh my goodness, weren't they? That's awesome.
I love it. Oh my gosh, these are beautiful. Beautiful. Sony Walk. Thanks, Trisha. Sony Walkman. I love it. And my wife, my girl. Oh my gosh. See. Oh, I love it. Beautiful. So here's what I want to do right now. These gifts are great. They make you happy. They give you all the good things, right? All the good things. Here's what I need. Let's flip it. I need you to go ahead right now. If you feel comfortable, write down some gifts that were absolutely not what you wanted. Maybe that you thought you didn't deserve. Maybe that made you question, do these people even know who I am giving me this gift? That's my favorite. You gave me this. Do you know who I am? Beautiful. Now take a look if you can read these as we go. I know we can all see this. As you keep writing, I want you to think about right now, how have these been positive gifts? As much as you thought, and I'm looking through this.
Yeah, these are powerful, aren't they?
Very powerful. Very powerful. Because I'm going to say right now, I see some of this as very dark times. Diseases are on here. Relationships ending. Deaths are on here. Abuse is on here. Addiction. And guess what? They're gifts. They are gifts. And it may take you, whether you see it or not right now, your brokenness makes you beautiful. This is who you are. This is who we all are. And if for some reason you do not see these as gifts, because it is so hard to see some of these as gifts, so hard. Why is losing someone a gift? I'm going to ask you to kind of dig real deep, and it doesn't have to be tonight, but just sleep on it. How could this be a gift in your life? And as I finish up, I just want to remind us and circle back to the theme of tonight. And Sergeant Ken had said that, we have power over problems. Mm-hmm. And we have power over the problems we have peace in. So what is so powerful is the fact that we have these gifts, whether they seem wonderful and all the positive things come in, or they seem like the world is going to end, they are gifts. And when we start to realize that we can have peace in them and we can see some of the goodness, and maybe we learn something, maybe with more empathy, and maybe that is your gift. For me, it allowed me to say, I don't belong in that classroom teaching anymore, because that world needs more Christine Conti. And that was a scary thing to do. But I knew right in here, it was the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And finding peace over my problems, although, one example tonight allowed me to have power over my life. And I wish that for all of you. Power over your problems and find peace. Thank you, everybody.
You have touched so many people tonight, Christine. The transparency that's coming in these messages, and I'm sure there's some that we're going to see in direct messaging over the next several days, if not longer. I've just been absolutely amazing, just amazing. It's just and I kept trying to visualize with you too about what were some of the things that really ripped me apart. And I remember that I remember 2003. It was Valentine's Day, but 2 days before that, I was on duty with my military. I was in the California National Guard at the time. I now live in Nashville, Tennessee, but at the time I was living in San Francisco. But we were doing some military maneuvers, just our 1 week in a month and our 2 weeks in the summer, and we're doing this. And I remember that the general came in and he had this. He wanted to give this rah-rah speech on the global war on terror, and he says that all of you are going to get to fight the global war on terror, and everyone's going, a bunch of infantry all crowded in here, and we were a military intelligence group in the corner. And he says, all of you are going to get to brace your families and employers. Yeah. And but some of you, we need you right now. So 223rd Military Intelligence Battalion, you're leaving in 2 days. And everyone's going, yeah. And I go, hey, Captain, I'm getting married in 2 days. So shortly into the reception of the wedding, instead of a honeymoon, I was off to, work for my country. And I realized this: I can either let it make me bitter or better, because you never know how strong you are until being strong is the only choice you have. That's why you're such an amazing woman, Christine, because your story just is all that. Oh, it's just amazing. All right, our next speaker. This is just amazing so far in your chats. Please keep them coming in. Our next speaker, boy, I'll tell you what, Gary Henry. I love this guy. He's a father of 7 children and 10 grandchildren. He's a CanFit Pro certified personal trainer. Love Canada. All right. And a minister of sports with a great deal of experience working in geriatrics. And he's been involved in fitness for over 20 years. He's the founder of Fit for the Call Fitness Ministry. Now, I can go on too, and you can see on Facebook, his comprehensive bio. I want to tell you a little bit about, how Gary has really touched me, because Gary was this guy that I met several years ago at a CanFit Pro in Toronto. And I remember that, again, it was just another one of those conversations that you just saw time just go. But Gary is one of these like kindred spirits that I thought to myself that I don't know what's it about this guy, but I feel like he's one of my brother warriors. And so he's just got an amazing story, an amazing background. So Gary, wave so I can find you. Okay, good. And now I'm going to spotlight you and bring you back up here, because you are the next speaker for us. Gary, take it away. All right, hold on, buddy. Looks like you're still muted.
Oops.
There you go. Now, go ahead, buddy.
Hello, everybody. First, Sergeant Ken, I want to thank you so much for giving me this platform. It means a lot to me. I met Sergeant Ken back in 2015. Well, I saw him before that, but 2015 is where my life really changed, speaking of Sergeant Ken. He gave me the time of day, and that was important for me because I had something special to say to him. And it was so powerful. And I was asking myself, is this really happening? And yes, it did happen. And 5 years ago, what happened 5 years ago has come now. And it's amazing. And I'm actually fighting fear right now. I'm crashing fear. I defeated fear because I shouldn't even be here speaking right now, but I am.
Oh no, buddy, this is your platform. We're behind you 100%, baby. This is your time to shine. Share your love and grace to everybody right now, buddy.
So, as Sergeant Ken said, I'm a father of 7, a grandfather of 10, and 2 more grandchildren coming on the way. So my life wasn't always like this. I didn't grow up with a father, never got an opportunity to meet my father. But by God's grace, I was raised by my grandma, who did an amazing job raising me. And I'm a man today because of my grandmother, who wore army boots, invisible army boots, because she was very strict, very disciplined woman. And I would say she raised me well. I made my mistakes along the way, though. But growing up without my father wasn't an easy thing. It was a very difficult thing. Many times I wanted to give up on life, but most of all, I wanted closure. I wanted answers. I didn't get answers, unfortunately. But as time went on, I continued to persevere. And all of a sudden, I have a family now. I'm a man. And here's this opportunity now with my family. Of course, I had my training business. I was working in healthcare. Everything was going well. But then an opportunity came to move to Texas, Dallas, Texas. My childhood football team that I loved. So here's this opportunity, but there's so many things that I don't want to leave because it was my comfort zone, but I got to come out my comfort zone. Do I take this leap? It's not just me, it's my family that's going to be moving over there. Well, I came out of my comfort zone. Again, I had to beat fear because fear was chasing me all my life from grade school. Always sitting in the back of the class, afraid to sit in the front, feeling failure. It was chasing me all my life because I felt like that. But this is something I had to say, okay, you know what? I'm going to take this leap. I'm going to take this leap and move to Texas with my family. Well, I cried for 2 weeks because the baby boy was crossing the border. I didn't know what I was going into. I thought I was going for this job that didn't work out well. But by his saving grace, I have to say his saving grace, opportunity came again. Opportunity came again. And that's what happened I could not plan, or we could not plan. It wasn't all glitz and glam. It was a coming. It was my coming through. I was broken because I had nothing to grab, to hold on to, because everything was back there. There's nothing to hold on to. My family, cousin I had there that was leaving. But I have to say this, prayer sustained us and doors opened for me. I got the opportunity to do things I would never get the opportunity in Canada. There's no way. All of a sudden, I find myself in the midst of pro trainers training NFL guys, NHL guys, NCAA. And I'm like, wait a minute, I don't fit in this place, man. I'm a guy from Canada. There I go again. Disqualify myself and fear. And fear. But all of a sudden, here I am. They're asking me questions about how did you train that guy like that? Where'd you come up with that? It was God-given gift. All of a sudden, we're talking, we're sharing. They're inspiring me, I'm inspiring them. Let me go back a little bit. The first player I saw was Terrell Owens, number 81, Dallas Cowboys. I said, damn, this is amazing, man. I'm like, look at this. I'm here in Texas, so close to these guys. Several months later, I take my sons to a Terrell Owens football camp, and I end up getting this touchdown towel, which I thought was amazing. So here I am working this facility. Then I'm asked to be the head trainer at the other facility, a transfer. Never been a head trainer. There I go again. I'm taking the plunge. I'm going to do it. And as time went by, I was in my zone. I was loving what I was doing, although it was challenging, but I was doing it. I'm not going to fail in the back. I'm going to fail in the front. And what happened? A man came up to me and he said, "What do you do here, sir?" I said, "I'm the head trainer." He goes, "No, you're not." He goes, "You're a minister of sport." I said, "Well, Ezekiel, is this man crazy? What is he talking about?" I said, "So you want me to show you my credentials?" He goes, "No, I don't care what you show me. You're a minister of sport." And I said, "All right, cool." Well, I let that go. But then I found myself ministering to people. I was like, wow. And I was training several people, several different people, and everybody was home for a certain time. And then they had to go back to work. They'd ask me to do videos for them so they can take it with them when they go back to work. Until I finally asked them, "What do you do?" And they said, "I'm a missionary." And I said, "What? You're a missionary?" Wow. So I literally prayed. I said, "God, I need a new name for my business." And he gave me Fit for the Call. And that's where Fit for the Call was birthed in Dallas, Texas. And here we are now, 2020. And it's so true. It's so true. And I got to tell you this. I'm very spiritual. I'm a believer. I have to say that because God is the one who brought me this far. And he has to get the glory. I should bring my Bible and show you, but I won't. Just take my word for it. I had a very precious Bible that was given to me as a gift from a friend of mine for being the best man in his wedding. Well, that Bible I cherish so much. But coming out my comfort zone, being in Dallas, Texas, that Bible came apart. But I came together. I came together. Now, fast forward, moving back to Canada now, not Montreal. I moved to Toronto. Long story short, I ended up living 6 minutes away. From my door to my father's door. Found out about my dad. Found out about my siblings, that I pray for my dad and my siblings just in case. My God. I found out about my dad. And I even know when my dad died, he died. I found out when he died. And when I met with my siblings for the first time, my God. And they asked me, "Where? So you said you just moved back from the States?" I said, "Yes." "Where?" I said, "Dallas, Texas." And they said, "What?" I said, "What's up?" "The Dallas Cowboys was my dad's favorite team." And the first picture of my dad, he's wearing Terrell Owens number 81. My God. And I had the Terrell Owens towel, man. So why am I telling this story? Why am I a part of Hope? Because I know that I'm not the only one that went through this or go through this. But I want to stand and give hope to those who have given up hope, because I came through, they're going to come through. That's what I got to say, man. I said it's different people around the place, but no, this is different. This is God's doing right now, right here. This is my opportunity to give him the praise, give him the glory. I'm not here to show off. Fair is finished. I got a life to live. I got a legacy to live. Thank you so much.
Oh man, Gary, so powerful, my friend. So powerful. The chats that are coming in about your message too has really moved a lot of people. And oh, Gary, You're exactly what we
Oh,
wanted. And then some, Lindsay.
Jesus.
That's it. You know, interesting thing is, we put together a lot of these notes together, and because of not having electricity in the the Sergeant Ken's household, I really didn't have time to kind of see if these notes meshed with each other. And just before we came on board, it's just amazing without them pre-communicating with each other how these themes of gratitude and making certain that they turn those adversities into advantages, they're coming to life, and they're working with each other. We're so excited to have you on board with us today. So we've got another great speaker in our panel tonight, and her name is Lindsay Schiller, and she's a fitness professional, speaker, international presenter, and aerial acrobat. Having taught at Circus du Soleil Jacare, she has over 15 years experience in the health and fitness industry, over 10 of which as a sought-out instructor at Equinox, New York City. Now, again, you can see her extended version of her bio on our Facebook group page, Project Hope, Help Other People Endure. What I want to focus on is that, when we put this all together, and we were, we being that who was ever that I was communicating with at that time, Speedball Steve and Jen Hall and Tasha Edwards and Michaela Woodall and Elizabeth Lennart. Okay, when we were all talking, we just said, how is this going to work? I don't know. We just kind of put it together. And Steve goes, I want you to meet somebody. And those are the best types of people. When they're endorsed by one of you, then you really are putting your heart into the situation. And that's it, really. If you want to win in life, use your heart and not your head. And so I want to go ahead and find Lindsay. Where are you at, Lindsay? Are you on page 2? Wave at me, Lindsay, so I can bring you up to the spotlight.
I'm waving.
Go ahead, unmute yourself. Good.
You hear me?
Oh, there you are. There you are. Okay, I'm going to spotlight you. Lindsay, take the show.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I'm still crying from Gary's story and then from what you said. So just thank you. It is amazing, and it is humbling, and it is honoring to be a part of this. So thank you. So in our last episode, I shared my story of when my life felt like the bottom fell out from under me. My dad had a stroke, and just long story short, I had to leave school, get a job, fend for myself. There were some days that I lived off of 25-cent 25-cent bananas from a street vendor and 55-cent Starbucks refills. I don't even know if they do that anymore. So I'd like to again ask from our previous episode, did you or do you still feel the anxiety in the air from our massive economic shutdowns? And I'm actually even going to go through the gallery a little bit because I want to see your faces and your eyes for those of you that resonate with that. Hi, Trisha. So as some of you already know, this time when I knew that people's lives would feel like the ground fell out from underneath them, I went into full-on service mode with my positive psychology infused fitness. So what I'd like to bring to you this evening is something that I call pivoting problems, paranoia, procrastination, and perfectionism into purpose, preparedness, and planning your priorities. Otherwise jokingly known as purposeful peeing, because humor and fun is another part of positive psychology, but we're going to focus on these for tonight. And there's no need to take notes because it's all in your handout. So there's something that I didn't tell you on last week's episode that I wanted to share tonight. That night that we filmed the last episode, my little fur baby and beloved class mascot, Panther, was in the animal hospital, thankfully non-COVID related. So overnight, I went from being a pet owner to a full-time pet parent, complete with supervising 2 pet meal planning routines, one of which is medically prescribed, in addition to planning and preparing my own life. So tonight, I'm going to share how these positive psychology principles helped me stay resilient and on point. One of my top character strengths is gratitude, which Sergeant Ken quoted on Sunday. Gratitude is the medicine for frustration. And while I don't feel grateful for my fur baby getting sick, there are a lot of things to be grateful for in the experience. One, I noticed the problem. I'm grateful that I saw early signs. And I'm grateful that I live within walking distance to an amazing animal hospital here in New York City. And I'm grateful that the staff was positive and optimistic about his outcome. And what I do appreciate is that because of my recent success, I had the funds to pay for Panther's care. And many of us are using our sheltering time to reorganize our home. So the second thing I appreciate is that this circumstance had and continues to have me be just lightning fast at reorganizing on things that I previously procrastinated on. So overcoming procrastination and fulfilling step 1 in your handout, which is problem solving. This was effective all because I prioritized purpose, keep everyone safe and healthy. Then it was time to implement a plan. My next problem was that Panther had literally piddled on everything and there's no laundry in my apartment. So, solution, there's laundry pickup and delivery. But that brings about another problem. Sending out laundry has concerns in that multiple people's belongings are piled on bags on top of each other. So solution, I got a Lysol spray. So the bags got sprayed down when they came in and now they're being quarantined for nine days. So for those of you that are going stir crazy at home, that have your families and particularly have laundry in your building or in your home, I invite you to take a moment and to just really feel grateful about that, because this is a problem that those of us still in New York City have to consider and learn how to manage. So my problem 3 is, or was hopefully, perfectionism. I found myself feeling paranoid, overwhelmed, all the things with trying to clean everything perfect, plan everything perfect, make sure my purpose was perfect, all to protect my little Prince Panther. So solution number 1, I called Steve that Sergeant Ken just talked about and that you guys saw on the last 2 episodes. And I had him, he walked me through that breathing technique that Michaela gave us, I think on episode 1. And that was a huge helper. Solution number 2 was I listened to a book called The Perfection Detox, which is written by my wonderful friend and mentor, Petra Kohlberg, who is also a beloved colleague of our amazing Sergeant Ken. So back to purpose. My number 1 purpose in the moment is to keep myself and my fur babies safe and healthy. Purpose and preparedness are positive psychology essential tools to stay resilient during crisis management. So thank you to Dr. Sherry Kelly. As I mentioned in our last episode, I had been through a major personal crisis before. When that happened and when my dad, now of blessed memory, got sick, I experienced sleepless nights, trying to sleep away other days, and had tear-filled subway rides because I did not know how to provide for myself. But I figured it out. So this time, there wasn't time for fear and anxiety to infect me with procrastination. I had to problem solve what was in my control and let go of anything that wasn't. So this brings me to my last theme. I would like to hear from you. How will you prepare for the path ahead in partnership with your purpose? So I'll repeat that, and you can type it into the chats or the comments if you're watching this on the replay. How will you prepare for the challenges ahead in partnership with your purpose?
I love what Steve says. He says, worrying hurts twice and solves nothing.
Yeah. So I'll give our viewers a moment if anybody wants to write something in the chat. Let's see. I don't know if maybe mine is frozen. Oh, I see some people, it looks like they're typing.
Maybe what they have to say is very profound.
Here they come. Yes.
Here we go.
For the modern era, lots of meditation and reading. Yes. Maintaining authenticity with genuine joy. Oh, I love that. Who said that? Fiona, I love that. Authentic leadership, another part of positive psychology, is so important. Embracing the changes in my occupation. Aren't we all? Accept and strategize. Exactly.
And Ken out of that said accept and strategize. He's right now 7 a.m. or when he started the call with us in the Philippines. Wow. So he's calling in from the Philippines. Bless him.
Heart. Stop and change. Look at failures as growth opportunities. I love that, Tricia Silverman. Keep investing in yourself and prioritizing my mental health and keeping moving forward. Yes, same thing for me. Same thing for me. Oh, Shelly, working on it now. Because cautions, it's already gone. Yeah, guys, you can save the chat. If you don't know that feature, you can save the chat so you can see what everybody shared and return to it. So just lastly, thank you to Sergeant Ken. Thank you to, wow, they're pouring in now. Thank you to everyone who is watching now and in the future. I appreciate you because it keeps me on a mission with a purpose. So thank you.
Lindsay, you are an amazing, polished performer, presenter, and just an amazing person. And you ever been told that you have an old soul? Yeah. You're amazing, absolutely amazing. This night is going awesome, just awesome. And let's talk about our next speaker. Let's get right into it. Joseph, Canford Pro personal trainer, HWL certified coaches federation, as an in-home personal fitness coach, certified mindset coach. And you know what I want to talk about, the fact that he's a mindset coach. This is really wonderful, because if you really take what Christine has talked about, and what Gary's talked about, and what Lindsay has talked about, is that what you see these common themes is that they're talking about focusing on a growth mindset, not a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset is it's the way it always is. But it makes you wonder what makes those people that look at fascination instead of frustration, and that's Joseph. I'm not going to steal his thunder as well, because he's got a wonderful story about how we met. And Joseph, wave so I can find you. All right, good. And I'm going to spotlight you. You unmute yourself, and then go ahead and take the stage.
Woo! All right. First of all, everybody, I want to see the mouths going. I want to hear. I want to see a loud hoo-ah. Are we fired up tonight? Oh, I love it. Oh, I love it so much. So before I begin, by the way, this is a BHAG of mine, a big, hairy, audacious goal, because my goal for 2020 was to speak at a conference. And hey, this is a conference to me, and I'm taking it. This is a win, and I'll come back to that later in this talk. So where do I begin? August 2nd, 2018. I was alone in a parking garage, in an underground parking garage, in my car, crying. Now let's take a step back for a little bit. I'll let you think about that. I'll build up the suspense. So prior to 2013, resilience was a term that I was not familiar with. It wasn't even part of my vocabulary. I didn't understand the concept of it. I lived life with depression, anxiety, anger management. Not so proud of that last one. And there were moments where I'd feel alone, lonely. Times where I didn't feel like I belonged. And when those times where I felt like I belonged, I questioned those moments, because I was asking myself, was I really authentic? Was I 100% authentic in those moments where I felt I belonged? The only times I felt I belonged were when I was on the high school basketball team, winning championships. I felt something, but afterwards it was just gone. Now, fast forward to 2012. I'm not a fitness professional just yet. My wife, Suzanne, gosh, I love her. And the way we met, I'm glad she came into my life. And Ken knows the story. She comes home. We're living in Montreal at the time, so it's about 5.5 hours away from Toronto. She goes into Toronto for the CanFit Pro conference in August 2012. She comes back Sunday evening and tells me straight up, Joseph, you got to come with me next year. Why? Because there's a guy you have to meet. You will connect with him. And she tosses me a GX United magazine with an article written by the guy in the top left of my screen, Mr. Sergeant Ken. And she knew I loved anything military. So I took it. And the following year, so keep in mind how I was feeling, how my emotions were. And I show up to the 2013 CanFit Pro conference. And I'm telling you something, and I know Mo Hagan's on here. Mo, the conference has changed my life and has been a positive influence in my life every year and has always given me a top up on the resilience tank I always needed. So I go to I take the one day, the Sunday, the final day of the conference. And I attend Sergeant Ken's boot camp at 7:30 in the morning. And for those of you familiar with Toronto or the Metro Toronto Convention Center, we did the boot camp outside in front of the Steam Whistle Brewery out in an open field. And let me tell you, within the first 20 minutes, I was feeling it. And now, no, I'm not talking about the lactic acid buildup in my legs and all over my body. I'm talking about that connection I was feeling, that I was looking for. I didn't know about it until I felt it. There was a spark. Later that afternoon, I attended his Road to Resilience lecture. So when he presented that last year at the conference, a lot of memories came up. But in that conference, in that session, my wife joined me, and I knew I needed it. And I discovered, that's when I finally understood what resilience was. My wife was pregnant with our first at the time, and I knew I had to be the better, an improved, an enhanced human emotionally. I wanted to be a great father for my child, a great husband, a great person. And in true Sergeant Ken fashion, he informed, he impacted, and empowered by building a connection, forming a rapport, and creating a relationship that I am thankful for and I'm grateful for, that has lasted. And every day I think about that and I get emotional. I got emotional during that session. So that was a spark I felt. And that was a journey. That's when my journey started into resilience. The following year, I became a certified personal trainer, then a bunch of certifications after, including nutrition coaching and becoming a certified master coach practitioner with the Certified Coaches Federation. But at the same time, I became a part-time in-home personal fitness coach. Full-time, I was an IT business analyst working for a software company. And I was miserable. I was miserable. I didn't like my job, but I didn't want to quit. I enjoyed fitness, but I didn't want to leave my job because there was the financial instability of leaving that job to pursue fitness. My wife was doing in-home fitness herself, so one of us had to have a stable income. I was scared, but I also knew I was burning me out. I burnt out maybe about 6 times within the span of 18 months. And even though I had this knowledge of resilience, and thankfully I had it, it kept me at bay and I was aware of my emotions. It was still not enough. I need to strengthen it. And that's when I met that's when I had coaching with Stephanie, and she taught me some valuable lessons. One of them you'll see in one of her books, and I'm doing a shameless plug here, Everything I Would Have Said, and a great read. And I'm featured in that book as Jacob. I'm sharing my story here. I'm coming clean. And in chapter 4, she talks about finding the third option. For me, I was either A or B. Do I want to leave my job and risk everything, or do I want to stay in the job and be miserable? But then she told me there was this third option. How can I use my creativity, my skills, my values of leadership in my current job? So I ended up mentoring people to become business analysts. I became an informal leader for everybody. There was a wellness month that I spearheaded, and I was teaching boot camps once a week for a month. And I was giving coaching sessions informally at the lunch table. Now, Fast forward, August 1st, 2018. I move into a brand new house. August 2nd, I told my boss I was coming in late. He was aware. I had to go to the DMV to update my vehicle registration and my driver's license. I show up to the office at 9:45 a.m. And I've never seen somebody jump up so fast from his cubicle. When he saw me coming down the hallway, he ran up to me, took me by the arm gently, and guided me to a room with no windows, with no glass. That was the only room in the office that didn't have a glass. And I thought of the worst case scenario. And what happened next was the worst case scenario. I got laid off from my job. I got laid off from a job where I did more than my mandated role, my mandated task. And I went above and beyond. I had a stellar year-end review. And obviously at this moment, and this is no different than what a lot of you have gone through recently during this virus crisis, losing a job and not knowing what to do next, going through the stages of grief, of denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. I went through all of that. But what was amazing is how I kept my cool, how I responded, overreacted. Naturally, I went into my car. I did cry. I called my wife right after to let her know. Then I drove home carefully. She comforted me. But then I decided, got to take ownership, got to take control over what I have control over. So I decided to continue. We fortunately had help moving in. We had professional organizers. I highly recommend hiring professional organizers next time you move. But I decided to do my part, help out, settle into the new house. And called my lawyer to get a better severance package, the severance package I deserved. But what I thought about, the reason why I said, you know what, I'm going to take my time is that because 10 days later was the 2018 CanFit Pro conference. And I was excited. And I knew that was the day, that was going to be the weekend I was going to decide what I was going to do with my life. What journey am I going to take? Am I going to go left or am I going to go right? There's one story. I reconnected with everybody and I met new people, reconnected with everybody, inspired. I volunteer at the conference every year. And let me tell you, I see so many people. People on this call right now, Ken, Mo, Lawrence, Trisha, all of you guys. I see you all the time. And you always bring a smile to my face and bring that positivity, that hope. And there's one fellow by the name of the Mind Right Maniac, Todd Durkin. I attended his session in one day afternoon. And after the boot camp, and all of you who know Todd know how he can motivate people and how he can inspire you. At the end of the session, I told him, Todd, this is not a question, but a thank you. Thank you, because I got laid off my job a week and a half ago. And now you helped me hit that reset button. And you know what he told me? You now have a blank canvas. It's time to create art. It's time to create art. So with that said, that fueled me up. That got me all fired up, take charge. So I then became a full-time personal fitness professional. I became an in-home fitness coach, started my own podcast, working on speaking engagements. And you know what? It's the greatest journey ever. And thankfully, the lessons I've learned from the people who have mentored me, most of you on this call, have given me the tools for my toolkit to be resilient. And how did I bounce forward? How did I bounce forward from the layoff? And how does anyone bounce forward from a layoff, a breakup, or a pandemic? Well, let me give you 5 principles of resilience that have helped me ride the wave. The first one is celebrate the small wins. No matter how small it is, celebrate it, because you will have a smile on your face. It could be as small as your daughter saying thank you, or spending time with your children, or getting a call from a friend, or getting an amazing workout, or just working out altogether. You know, it reminds me of when, for those of you who have children, how many times, when you remember that first step they took and how we freaked out, we're like, honey, get the camera, and that's how we felt. Why can't we be like that with ourselves? That one little thing, one little step, and celebrate that, win it. So here's my action step for you right now. What is one thing today that merits a high five? If there's someone beside you right now, give them a high five. Or if there's someone right now on the screen, give them a high five right now on the screen and celebrate that win. Celebrate that win. High five first and explain later. That's what I say. Next one is possess an attitude of gratitude. We hear this all the time. But you know what? Every time I express gratitude to people like yourself, to being on a call with you, the opportunity to be with the call, and I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for knowing people like Ken, Mo, Trisha, Manda, all of you guys, Shelly. I see a lot of people. I'm not going to go through the whole list, but you guys, I'm grateful for having you in my life. And that's going to come up in a second. So there's studies that proves that expressing expressions of gratitude enhance contentment, decrease depression, and reduce stress and strengthens bonds in relationships. So what made you smile today? What made you smile? Write it down. Say thank you. If there's something right now, write it in the notes. Write it in the notes now. Write it down, because when you write it down, it becomes concrete in the universe. I'm going to say his name again, like my buddy Todd Durkin says, writing provides clarity. Clarity precedes genius. When you write it down, when you write down a journal, when you write down in a gratitude journal, or when you write down positive self-affirmations, it becomes reality. It's ingrained in your mind, and it gives you those positive images and strengthening the belief that you have the power to thrive and be the best version of yourself through any storm. Next one is be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable. This right now is making me uncomfortable, but I love it because it's helping me grow into the person I want to be, into the presenter, into the person who will impact you in some shape or form. A lot of times we don't want to do things because we fear rejection, fear embarrassment, but guess what? Being uncomfortable encourages growth. Remember the first day at a brand new job, how uncomfortable you felt? And now 6 months down the road, 1 year down the road, how you are right now, how so comfortable you are with it, and you've mastered it. So what are you avoiding today? Here's my question to you. What are you avoiding today to start because you believe you can't do it? What is that limiting belief? Take that belief, reframe it, and recreate a scenario where the limiting belief doesn't exist, and say it out loud, even if you're alone. You'll look crazy, but hey, we're all crazy, all right? Smile and say it out loud, and which leads to my next one, release perfection, embrace imperfection. You know, when you're seeking only perfection, you create this tunnel vision of negativity, blocking out anything that's positive. When you try to paint that perfect picture, meticulously touching up every perceived flaw, you'll never really finish it. But when you do, will you truly be happy with the end result? Or will you be frustrated and not really enjoy the end result? Right now as well, one thing that's coming up, and I see it a lot right now, comparing ourselves to others. And I fall guilty to that. I fall to right now because I'm seeing a bunch of fitness professionals on Instagram go on an IG live and making me feel like I have to go on. Well, meanwhile, reprioritizing everything. And sometimes I feel like my boot camps, if I do a live video, a live workshop, if it's not perfect, am I going to take a step back and defeat myself? No. Why? Because I still got people to move. I still got people to feel better about themselves and feel great. And it's about making the impact. In the words of Andy Puttycombe, and I'm phrasing here, rather than forcing how you think things should be, work with what they are. As well as what Jocko Willink and Leif Babin says in their book, Extreme Ownership, prioritize and execute. Take control of the controllables, prioritize them, and take action. Get after it. So what was the last thing you did or worked on that you believe didn't meet your perceived perfection, but still provide the intended results? Did it provide the intended results? Ask yourself that. Finally, last but not least, fifth principle, create your choir. All right, can I get an amen? Amen. Yes, create your choir. Surround yourself with those who make your soul sing. And surround yourself with those who will allow you to make theirs sing in return. Your circle is your choir. And I'm going to come back to the conference, the CanFit Pro conference. Every time on a Monday morning, Sunday afternoon is bittersweet, but Monday morning, I have this energy. I become a fire-breathing dragon. And I'm ready to get after it. And the fact that I'm surrounded by positive people who are smiling, even when they're drowning in their own sweat and aching from doing 100 burpees and maybe 300 push-ups in one of someone's boot camp classes. you know, you still feel it. There's that positive energy. So who's in your choir? Write it down. Write it down right now and call them up. Give them a call. Why not FaceTime them or do a Zoom call? But don't text them. Call them, because it has a lot more impact, and you'll be impacting somebody so much you don't realize it, and they'll be grateful, and you'll be grateful in return. So my friends, there will be moments in life when you'll have the overwhelming feeling your world has imploded around you. Some of those moments will be like little blips in your story. And other times, there'll be full blown out chapters. It's how you respond to those events, respond and seek and uncover the hidden opportunities that define the tone of your journey and reveal the leader you truly are. Who you are today is the sum of all experiences, good and not so good, until this very breath. I want to thank you very much, my friends. We will thrive through this. We will emerge more resilient than ever together. And remember to always live every day with joy, curiosity, and passion. Thank you very much.
Wow, what just happened? Wow. You said you wanted to talk, in 2020, and then you said that this was the first one. Oh my goodness, it looked like you've been doing this forever. Oh, you remember what we talked about in 2013? That your past does not define you, it prepares you.
Right.
Wow. Wow. Oh my goodness. I'm loving tonight. I'm really loving tonight. Team 2. Hey, team 1, I know you're somewhere on here. Most of you are on here. Team 1, you got to up your game. Team 2 is taking it. Okay, Amanda, where are you at? Wave for me, please. There you are. I'm going to spotlight Amanda, and then I'm going to bring Amanda into the picture. First, let me tell you about Amanda. Okay, Amanda Brush is an elite level triathlete, master instructor for Start Fitness. That's my boot camp instructor program. Water rower, matrix personal trainer, and coach. She's presented and raced across the world. In 2016, she opened Thrive Fit, a studio that focuses on a holistic approach to performance training as well as education of other fitness professionals. Now, I'm going to stop right there because you can read the rest on Facebook again. But I got to tell you something about Amanda. Back when I met her years ago, I met her at I think was it at an Idea personal training?
Yeah, Idea PTI East.
Yeah, and I think that I said I just took her under my wing. I just thought that this woman has just got such a gift about her. She's got what we call like just that it factor, right? And I said that hey, can you come into the next conference and help me teach? I think it was like a week later or something like that.
Yeah.
And you dropped what you were doing and you did it. It's just the type of person that you are. And you've spoken and you with me in China, and you've spoken for CanFit Pro. And here you are now in Indiana. And we get to hear your wonderful message. Take the stage.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ken, for inviting me to do this. And for everyone, thank you so much for just being here and being a part of this. Team 1, I've been on these calls from the beginning, and it was one of those things, the first call that we had, right? It was one of those days where it was just thing after thing after thing. And I got on, and I'm East Coast time, and it was super late. The first one was so late for me. And I was like, man, okay. And I got done with that call, and I was like, I'm so glad that I did this. So thank you so much for letting me be a part of this and letting me share my story and perspective with you. So what I've titled my little story and talk for the night is changing your perspective to procure peace amidst problems. And so if you wanna learn from the best, you study the best, right? So that's why we have the mentors we have. It's why we choose the people to be in your life. And so as all good students do during quarantine, I decided to study the best example of perspective that I could find through binge watching Hulu. Okay, everybody, yes. Okay, I have you up on the screen so I can see you all laugh, because it's not what you thought I was going to say, right? You thought I was going to read some book off or something very astute. Yes. So in the beginning of quarantine, the first part, right, I spent a lot of time just kind of doing nothing, and trying to figure out what my purpose was going to be and what I was supposed to do during this time. And I spent the first couple of days watching a lot of Hulu episode binge watching moments, right? And so one of the shows I was watching was White Collar, and so it's all about forgery and copying signatures and art, and how this ends up working. The art forger works with the FBI. It's a great show. I highly recommend it. But I was sitting there one night and I was watching, and all of a sudden, the forger said something, and it stuck with me to the point I dreamt about it, and then I thought about it the next day during my run. And I was like, huh, this really just stuck with me. And so he's talking to the FBI agent, and the FBI agent is trying to discover if a signature is forged or how to forge a signature. And the forger looks at him and he says, well, see, if you want to forge a signature, you turn it upside down so that your brain can't see that signature in the same way it would see a normal signature. Because when your brain sees somebody else's signature, it automatically applies how you write your own signature to that signature. And so if you want to copy something like somebody else, or you want to make something new, you need to change your perspective. And when I saw that and when I heard that, I was like, wow, perspective, right? That's what we all could use a little bit of in our lives all of the time. And so I started to think about that and apply that to my own situation and my own story now, and then also look at how I had to shift my perspective in the past, and how I used that to find peace in some problems. And so if you know me, most of you met me as Amanda Mercer, and you followed me as Amanda Mercer. If you have been on my presenting or anything, that's who I was. And I had a bunch of hashtags that went with it, and it was awesome. And I was married for quite a while. And in that time, very early on in that marriage, something happened, and I realized that if nothing was going to change, this marriage was not going to work, or I was going to be miserable. And at the time, my perspective was, I am going to be miserable. I am going to be stuck for the rest of my life. And I was bitter. And I mean, really bitter. It was not a pretty side of me that I like to own, but I own it. And I was so bitter for an entire year. And then I realized I kind of just went numb, because who wants to be bitter all the time? And so then I just blocked out all feeling and emotion, which is also not great. So then I spent another year just not feeling anything, not feeling the good, not feeling the bad, just kind of existing. And then year 3 happened, and I had met Ken by this point in time, and eventually we had enough conversations and relationship and rapport that I shared with him some of what was going on in my marriage, and he directed me to his wife, Stephanie, who then I did some lovely coaching calls with. And Stephanie started to help me shift my perspective. And so I remember one call specifically, we were talking about perspective, and I said, I'm just so frustrated because I can't change him. I'm trying and I can't. And she said, that's right, you can't change him. And she said, but who can you change? And immediately I was like, a ton of bricks hit me in the head and woke me up. I was like, oh, I can only change me. I can only change how I respond to this and what I do. And she said, that's right. So you're going to work on you for however long. And at some point in time, you'll have to make a decision to come, go, stay, whatever you're going to do, something will come up, and you will have worked on yourself enough that when that time comes, you will be able to make that decision with peace in your heart. So I worked on myself for a lot of years, for a couple more years. And then year 5 came around of our marriage, and I had peace in my heart that was it, that I had tried everything I knew how to save that marriage, and it was not going to happen. And so I made the decision and left. And in that, after you make that decision, and it took an entire year for everything to be finalized, and then my perspective had to shift again, right? Because I thought I had the highest of highs during that time and the lowest of lows, and I had peace in that situation, but now I was dealing with hurt and with moving and with finalizing things and with arguing lawyers and different things back and forth. And I had to shift my perspective again. And then I realized, I think it was in the middle of a bike ride. If anybody does Ironman, we ride our bikes a lot indoors, and it gives you a lot of good time to think about your perspective. And I realized I was really, really angry because I felt like I had wasted time. And so I needed this perspective shift again. And I was angry at him, and I was angry at myself. And I was mad that I had made this choice that then led to all of this wasted time, was what my perspective was. And so I was sitting there one day and I was listening to it, actually a motivational talk on YouTube, and it got really quiet. And it said something about you cannot grow and you cannot move on and you cannot heal unless you forgive. And so I was like, okay, I need to forgive him. Okay. And then I realized I needed to forgive myself because I was being really mean and really nasty to myself, and my self-talk was super negative. And so I started to realize that I needed to shift my perspective again. And so what I came up with during this time, and that helped me to shift my perspective, were these 3 different statements. And the first one is this: that they are, or I am, doing the best that I can. Okay. And this comes right from Dr. Brene Brown. She is one of the most influential people in my life. Yes, love her. And I actually got to meet her with Stephanie. Super awesome. Another highlight moment of my life. But what she's talking about is reframing your perspective, that if you approach a person or yourself or whoever with the theory that they are doing the best that they know how to do, it's really hard to hate them. And it changes your perspective into respecting them as a human, right? And so that's super important. And that was super important in my situation. And I think right now I'm applying this in COVID and in quarantine to leadership, to other people around me, to anybody who I come in contact with, in that before I get angry at what they're saying, I'm saying, okay, but they're doing the best they can. And when I can stop and say that and look at it, I can immediately take off some of that anger or frustration or whatever happens to be going on right now and have peace about it, that none of us know what we're doing right now. Okay, like, let's be real. We haven't really existed in this situation ever before. And so it's all new. And so when we're owning the fact that it's all new and that nobody's given us this specific handbook as to how to handle this in 2020, then we can say, okay, if we're all doing the best that we can and what we believe is the best that we can do, then I can take a step back and start to exist in a more peaceful manner. So that's perspective, powerful statement on perspective number 1. Number 2 is, what can I control or act upon right now? And so there's a great quote by Edward Everett Hale that says, I am only one, but still I am one. I cannot do everything, but I can do something. And because I cannot do everything, I will not refuse to do the something that I can do. And it's one of my favorite quotes because it's always the fact that you can do one thing and there's always something you can control. So can I control how other people act in this situation right now? Could I control how my ex-husband acted? No. But what I could control was my response. And what I can control right now is my response. Can I control what lawmakers and people in positions of authority are doing? No, I can't. But what I can control is my daily actions and my response. So right now, I can choose to get out of bed on time and put clothes on other than pajamas. Or if it's the day I need a little extra time, I can choose to sit there with my coffee and journal. That's the beauty of this. There is no rule book, right? And so I can be gracious with myself. I can choose to call a friend if I need to vent, or I can choose to call the person who I need to be positive with. I can choose not to answer the phone call that I know is going to be negative if I know it's going to ruin my day. And so that is something that I think is also super impactful for your perspective, is knowing that there is always something you can have control of, and it's usually you. And so what can you control in this moment? The third statement, and I think this has been the biggest game changer for me, is this statement right here. But what if? ... But what if? Okay, so when I was talking earlier about the fact that I was really angry post-divorce, that I had wasted all this time, I sat down one day and I said, but what if? But what if I hadn't gotten married? So what if I had not gotten married? I would not have moved to Ohio. If I hadn't moved to Ohio, I would not have driven to Idea PTI East in DC because I lived way too far away from that before. And I might not have met Sergeant Ken. And because I had not met Sergeant Ken, I might not have gotten to be a master trainer. I wouldn't have had the courage to start my own business. And I wouldn't have been in a position in the place I was living prior to this to start my own business. I wouldn't have gotten to travel around the world and present. I wouldn't have raced competitively with triathlon. I probably would have settled for something else, something safer, something, and by safer, I mean something that has more job security, right, than what I'm doing right now. And then I wouldn't be sitting here in front of you, right? And I would not have grown, and I would not have worked through some of the deep issues in my life that have now brought me to where I am today. And so I sat back, and I was able to change my perspective from, and again, Christine, this goes so great with what you started us off with today, is looking at instead of this gift of negativity, right? Like divorce is not ever what we want. It's not ever what I would have chosen going into it. But what if? What if all of this had a plan and a purpose, and even through the hurt and the pain and the problems that it caused, what if there was peace and joy and a better life on the other side? And so what I want you to think about is, what if there is a plan more perfect, more powerful, and more peaceful than you could possibly ever put together yourself? What if? And what if through all of this, through whatever your pain is, whatever your trouble is, through COVID, through all of this, what if there is something better on the other side, and all you have to do is just keep showing up and controlling what you can control and trying your best every day? What if? What if that this is the thing that is going to bring you to the next great thing in life that you would have never imagined? And so here's my call to action for you tonight. How do we practice power over our problems to procure peace daily? Okay, how do we do this? 3 things really quick. Write it down. Okay, write it down. I can't tell you the number of things that I have healed from because I have written it out. If I don't write a list, I forget things now. But the things that I have healed from in my life and the things that I have gotten power over are the things I have written out on paper. And some of them are ugly, and some of them people will never see, and some of them are things people will see. But if I write it down, I can own it and I have power over it. That's number 1. Number 2, I call them Post-it notes of permission. Then that's another thing from Brene Brown. So I've got mine here tonight, right, with me. Write it down. Give yourself permission to be vulnerable, to be lazy for a day in quarantine. It's okay if you don't make it out of your pajamas, or to be productive, right? Whatever you need for that day, I write it on my Post-it note. I stick it in my pocket. If it's because I need to go have the tough conversation with someone, I stick that in there, that it is okay for me to be firm in love with that person. It is okay for me to set boundaries. It's okay for me to be happy. It's okay for me to be sad. And those Post-it notes of permission are super important. And then second, or lastly, and this goes with whatever you're going to do, call it your choir, your team, your company. I say it, find an accountability buddy. Okay, find an accountability buddy. Find someone who you can trust, who you can talk to, who you can laugh with, who you can cry with, and someone who's going to be tough with you if you need it, that tough love, but not judgmental, right? So they're going to ask you the questions that you need to know. And it might be more than one person, but find someone that you can have this relationship with, because we're hardwired for connection. And we need that. You can't do it alone. We can't do this life alone. It does not work like that. So find those people. So those are your steps to action today. Write it down, post-it note of permission, and find your accountability buddy or your choir or your team or whatever you're going to call it. But find those people and reach out to them when you need it. I've had the people in this quarantine and through my divorce and through all the other problems in my life, the people that I knew that I could call at any minute, and they're like, yes, call me right now. And we'll celebrate with you, we'll cry with you, we'll be angry with you, we'll tell you when we think you're not right, did not matter. And it's been a game changer for me. So that's what I have for you today. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And guys, go find peace over your problems and power over your problems and own it.
Wow. Okay, this word, accountability buddy, that's a tongue twister. Did you make that up?
I think so.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. If anyone, that someone hashtag hashtag that right now in the chat box, so we have it saved somewhere. That's amazing. And, Steve's on the line too. And, from Team One, and he also, he's been chatting with me back and forth about things and how they're going and how some of this message is, intertwining with each other. And while the overarching theme is power over problems, we can look back and say, that, we have power over the problems that we have peace in. And so that's really finding fortitude in the face of fear. And, so we want to take a moment here because we're right at the 90-minute mark. It couldn't have been timed better, right? But we want to take a moment of just another a chunk of 10 minutes. Stay with me just another 10 minutes because we want to address some Q&A. So here's what's going to happen here. If you've got a question that's just burning on your heart right now because something resonated with you, please put it in the chat bar right now. We're going to address that. And if it's for a specific speaker, go ahead and say, this is for Joseph, or this is for, Amanda, or whoever it is. And so that we can address that right now, we'll do a little Q&A, and then I'm going to wrap it up on the 8th minute from now and do a closing comment for episode 3 of Project Hope, Help Other People Endure. Oh, wow. I got some people all the way from over there in Beirut, Lebanon that said that we can go for another 10 hours. Bless you. That's awesome. Laura writes, Chandler Bolt uses the accountability buddy in his self-publishing school. Well, so that term has been out there, but Amanda, you made it nice. I love it. All right. And so Thea says, no questions. I'm just super grateful to be on this call tonight. Amazing group of speakers. Yes, you are. I am extreme. There's another theme that we've carried out between all of us is really focusing on how to be grateful. I do this with my son at night. At night, I say, son, name a couple of things that you're grateful for before he goes to sleep. Name a couple of things that you're grateful for. And then I have words of affirmation too, because we're big into the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman. And if you haven't read the 5 love languages by Gary Chapman, read it right away. It's an amazing journey about understanding your own love languages, about how you show love and how others in the significant others that are in your close inner circle about how they receive love. And it's different. So you've got to communicate on their love language. And so, okay, so we've got, I'm so grateful for all the speakers. Thank you, Maki. And how do you help someone that has lost motivation? Oh, okay, wait a minute here. Let's go back to this. How do you help someone that has lost motivation and gave up to get him back on track and changing to the better version of himself? Okay, do any of my speakers want to take that question? Because I got an answer, but Lindsay wants to take it. Lindsay, I'm going to spotlight you now. Go for it. Unmute yourself. Take it.
My thought is it's exactly what Amanda just said, is that you can't change another person. In my opinion, I think it's that you can be an example and focus on your own self-care, and just pray that that's an inspiration to them.
Spot on, spot on. Earlier today, I was on CanFit Pro's a webinar it was just myself, and it was my my own version of Strength in a Storm: How to Find Fortitude in the Face of Fear, because they're really supporting Mental Health Week this week. And I was talking about, there are times where you just got to realize that if it's a problem that you can fix, that's great. If it's not, then have resolve that you've done everything that you could. Right. And we can see that in a lot of what the speakers have said tonight. And I remember that I had this one, we used to have this studio in San Francisco, the longest running boot camp in the USA. And I was traveling so much at the height of my traveling career before the COVID crisis. I was traveling 280 days a year, the 30 countries to lead boot camp instructor certification courses. And I would only visit that boot camp studio in San Francisco maybe twice a year to do cameo performances. And I'm getting my back brief before the class. I was sitting there talking to Bianca Baresh, and she's one of my instructors there, one of my master instructors there. And by the way, she's from Saskatchewan, Canada. Yes. And she's an amazing instructor. And she told me, this is this person here, this is this person here, and this is Alexis. She hates human beings. I went, wow. Instead of frustration, I thought of fascination, because I thought that I love a challenge. Okay. And so I remember teaching the class, and about halfway into the class, I kind of go back to the back row where she was. And as soon as I got within 5 feet of her, she goes, "Don't talk to me." Wow. That's never happened before. And so I went ahead and I took off the microphone and I put it down, and I told Bianca with a symbol, with this gesture like this, you go ahead and finish teaching the class. And I said that, I figured there's some people, like Lindsay just said, in reinforcing what Amanda just said, there's some people that, they want empathy. They want you to feel what they feel, but sometimes they don't want to be fixed. And so what you need to do is, just like Lindsay said, in support of what Amanda said and what they all have said, is that show them with your actions, how much you really care. And when you do that, you'll see it all just come to fruition. Gary Chapman is amazing. Thank you, April. Oh, wow, these messages are just wonderful tonight. And, we can carry a lot of this conversation, into our Facebook group. But my wife wrote the closing. And she's an amazing author. Joseph already was very transparent in his own personal story by saying that he's a part of that. He's a whole chapter in that book, everything I would have said. And my wife wanted to give back, just like we're doing for this volunteer group called Project Hope, Help Other People Endure, putting other people's needs before our own. And, she said she wanted to also do something. So for the time that we're in the COVID crisis, shameless plug, in the time that we're in the COVID crisis, she's lowered the price for her Kindle book to 99 cents US, 99 cents US during the time that we are stuck at home, and either in GCQ or ECQ. And if you're not familiar with that term, those terms are, GCQ is general quarantine, general community quarantine, and enhanced community quarantine. So there are a lot of countries that are just suffering from, this isolation, and people are just starving for connection and hungry for growth. So my wife said, there are 3 things that can keep us stuck. And so these are the call to action. These are what we're going to have for the overall call to action. So because I'm one of the speakers tonight too. All right. So the worry wall. Recently, my wife read a quote by Zig Ziglar that fear is the dark room where negatives are developed. Worry is fear's ugly cousin, and it can cause you to refrain from action. Additionally, it robs you of the rest of your body needs. Instead of worrying what you should choose to believe, the answer would be there to greet you along the way. Number 2, resistance to risk. Often, the next step includes a certain amount of risk. Risk may include emotional exposure, lack of control over the outcome, or losing something you value, but your risks produce rewards. For instance, you might gain a new friend because you risk asking someone to coffee. Would you be willing to live with a modest degree of uncertainty? Number 3, stopping at the small steps. The solution of fixing an oak tree sized problem often comes in a mustard seed sized package. You may not be able to fix the entire issue overnight, but you can take small steps now. Imagine the problem solved. Imagine the problem completely resolved. If you knew you would not fail, what would be the teeny tiny step you would take today for tomorrow? Your answer may be that your first step toward the solution itself. Most of us would rather see the big picture before taking a step at all, but often progress requires us to bypass the ugly little things and roll up our pant legs and take a small leap of faith, because the next step is central to building the positive momentum we need to move ahead. And that's my take and my wife's take on power over problems. Folks, it's been an amazing journey tonight. And again, I want to go ahead and say in our closing announcements is that, again, this is a CEC approved, American Council on Exercise approved program tonight. And if you are ACE certified, or you can petition through ACE, through your own certification that you have, you can go ahead and send me a DM or email me at sergeantken@sergeantken.com. That's SGTKEN@SGTKEN.com. And soon to be CanFit Pro certified. And in fact, by the time that we have a response to that, I'll go ahead and we can make those certificates applicable for that as well. So share the recorded version of this when it goes up on our Facebook group, Project Hope, help other people endure, and share it with everybody so that they too can be impacted and empowered. Steve, I'm glad you came on the call with us tonight too. Mo, a blessing to have you with us. You just motivated us so many. Trisha, we want you as a speaker too. Now, folks, that's my last little bit of housekeeping announcements that I'm going to close with. We know that this is only growing because the hurt hasn't ended yet. And it's our job to take this information and use it, because information doesn't create a revelation. Information might impact you, and that impact, that heart change, that lifestyle change, that's the revelation. And it's going to take us sharing it with each other. So we need speakers, bloggers, photographers, videographers, you name it, anything that a startup would take. So if you're interested, please reach out to us as well. We'd love to have you. We've got a whole line of speakers. Team 2 is going to be hosted in the next couple of weeks again. And then Team 3 for North America will be taking on. And don't forget, May 15th, Project Hope Singapore. Yes. Oh, it's going to be awesome. And so, and Arun, I see you over there. You're to the left of my screen. And Arun is one of the amazing speakers for Project Hope Singapore. And Ken, I see you also there. He is the one who designed our logo out of initiative. I didn't even ask him to do it. He just sent it, and he sent the meaning behind it. That's what the beautiful part about a nonprofit startup is all about. It comes from the collective. Hashtag better together. So that's all I got. Let's take it now to the streets. Share it with your friends and family, and let's change the world one Zoom call at a time. Everyone wave. Awesome job.
Thank
Love
you,
you all.
everybody.
I'm going to shout out you're fired up, and you shout hoo-ah. Are you fired up? Hoo-ah! It was amazing. All right. God bless you all, and have a great night or day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great
Bye.
night, good morning.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sergeant. Have a blessed evening.
Great job. Thank you.
Thanks.